The final battle began at the edge of Korthik space. War Prime Hethmus led his fleet of 300 ships toward the human forces. He was confident that sheer numbers would crush the upstart species that had dared to challenge his empire. Captain Morrison watched the massive enemy fleet approach on his screens. The human force looked tiny in comparison, only 50 ships against 300. But those 50 ships carried the best technology humanity had ever built. "All ships, this is Morrison," he said into his communications device. "Remember what we're fighting for. Remember that Earth is watching. Make them proud." Admiral Ben Clark commanded the human fleet from his flagship, the UES Guardian. Next to him stood Dr. Amy Walsh and Dr. Tony Kim. They had worked without sleep for weeks to give humanity every possible advantage. "Amy, are the new weapons ready?" Ben asked. "Better than ready," she replied. "Tony's team made some last-minute improvements. The Korthik won't know what hit them." Dr. Kim smiled tiredly. "We figured out how to turn their own shield technology against them. Every shot they fire will make our weapons stronger." The battle began when Hethmus ordered his ships to attack. Energy beams crossed space like deadly lightning. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness between stars, but something was wrong. The Korthik weapons that should have destroyed human ships were barely scratching their shields. Meanwhile, human return fire was cutting through alien defenses. Like they were made of paper. "What is happening?" Hethmus demanded from his command ship. "Unknown, War Prime," his tactical officer replied. "Our weapons are not working properly, and their weapons are stronger than before." The truth was simple but devastating. Dr. Kim's team had learned how Korthik energy shields worked. They had built human shields that absorbed enemy fire and used that energy to power their own weapons. The more the Korthik shot at human ships, the stronger the human weapons became. "Impossible!" Hethmus roared as he watched his fleet being torn apart. But Admiral Clark was not finished with surprises. At his signal, new ships appeared throughout the battle zone. These were not more human vessels. They were ships from the species that had allied with humanity. Etherian ships moved like dancers through space, their weapons firing beams of pure light. Zephyrian vessels swarmed around larger Korthik ships, like angry insects. Rillan fighters darted between the giants, targeting weak points with surgical precision. "All allied ships, this is Admiral Clark," Ben broadcast. "Thank you for standing with humanity. Today, we fight together for freedom." Ambassador Lithara's voice came back over the radio. "Today, the galaxy sees what happens when free species unite against tyranny." The tide of battle turned completely. Korthik ships that had expected easy victory found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. Their formations broke apart as captains tried to escape the slaughter. "All ships retreat," Hethmus finally ordered. "Jump to rally point 9. But Captain Morrison had been waiting for this moment. His ships were positioned to block the main escape routes. As Korthik vessels tried to flee, they ran into walls of human fire. "This is for Earth," Morrison said as his weapons destroyed Hethmus' flagship. The War Prime died, still refusing to believe that his empire could be defeated by newcomers to the galaxy. When the battle ended, 2/3 of the Korthik fleet was destroyed. The rest surrendered or fled to distant parts of space. The empire that had ruled through fear for centuries was broken. On Station Nexus Prime, the surviving council members watched the battle reports in shocked silence. Admiral Zethkar spoke for all of them. "The war is over. Humanity has won." Council leader Mordain called for an emergency session. "We must decide what to do about the humans. They have proven they cannot be conquered. I say we invite them to join the council," Ambassador Lithara suggested. "They have earned that right through battle." "Agreed," said Collective Mind Shira. "Any species that can defeat the Korthik Empire deserves our respect." Other voices joined in support. The species that had stayed neutral during the war now wanted to be friends with the victors. 1 month later, Ambassador Grace Lewis stood in the rebuilt council chamber. The old station had been too damaged by Korthek attacks to repair, so the Allies had built a new one. This station was different. It was designed to include all species as equals. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity as a full member species. Mordain announced, "You will have one vote in all council decisions, the same as any other member." Grace smiled. "Thank you. But humanity wants more than just membership. We want to change how this council works." The chamber went quiet. Change was not something the council was used to. "What kind of changes?" Lithara asked. "No more voting blocks based on military power," Grace explained. "No more species that can threaten others into agreement. Every voice should be heard equally. And if some species refuse to follow council decisions," another member asked. "Then we deal with them together," Grace replied. "All of us. No single species should be able to terrorize the others." Dr. Tony Kim had been working on new projects since the war ended. His latest invention was a jump drive that could move ships faster and farther than ever before. But instead of keeping it secret, humanity was sharing the technology. Why give away such valuable knowledge? Admiral Zethkar asked him during a technology conference. "Because the galaxy is safer when everyone can defend themselves," Tony explained. "We don't want to be the only species with advanced technology. We want to lift everyone up together." This was a new idea for many aliens. Most species hoarded their best technology to maintain advantages over others. Humans were doing the opposite. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, was leading the first joint exploration mission in galactic history. His crew included humans, Etherians, Zephyrians, and members of 6 other species. Commander Lisa Braun, the woman whose test flight had started everything, was his second in command. She had been promoted after her heroic escape from Korthik captivity during the war. "Admiral, we're approaching the edge of known space," Lisa reported. "Any signs of new civilizations?" Morrison asked. "Several promising star systems." "Should we make contact?" Morrison looked around his diverse bridge crew. Each species brought different skills and perspectives to the mission. Together, they were stronger than any of them could be alone. "Yes, but carefully. We've learned that first contact can go very wrong if we're not prepared." The new exploration missions were finding many new species. Some were friendly, others were hostile. But now the galaxy had a way to deal with both kinds. Peaceful species were invited to join the growing alliance. Aggressive ones faced the combined might of a dozen allied civilizations. On Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with world leaders to discuss humanity's role in galactic affairs. The revelation that aliens existed had changed everything about human society. "We're not the same species we were a year ago," she told the assembly. "We've learned that we're part of something much bigger than just our own world." General Rick Stone had been promoted to head of Galactic Defense Command. His job was to make sure humanity never again faced the kind of threat the Korthik had posed. "We have allies now," he reported to the president, "but we must never become weak. The galaxy is full of dangers we haven't discovered yet." Dr. Amy Walsh was working on her greatest project yet, a new type of space station that could serve as a mobile base for Allied fleets. It would be a symbol of cooperation between species. "How long until it's ready?" Helen asked. 6 months, Amy replied. "And when it's finished, it will be the most advanced structure in the galaxy. Built by humans, but designed to house any species that wants to be our ally." The Korthik Empire was slowly rebuilding under new leadership. The survivors had learned that ruling through fear was no longer possible. New Korthik leaders were trying to make peace with their former enemies. Some humans wanted revenge for the war, But Grace Lewis spoke for most of humanity when she addressed the rebuilt council. "We don't want the Korthic to suffer," she said. "We want them to change. We want them to become the kind of species that builds up instead of tearing down." It was a slow process, but it was working. Young Korthic were learning new ways of thinking. They were discovering that cooperation was stronger than conquest. Admiral Morrison's exploration fleet made its greatest discovery in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy. They found a species called the Ancients, being so old that they remembered when the galaxy was young. "You are the humans," the ancient representative said. His voice sounded like wind through old trees. "We have been watching your progress." "What? Do you think of what we've done?" Morrison asked. "You have brought change to a galaxy that was growing stagnant," the ancient replied. "Change is painful, but it is necessary for growth." The ancients shared knowledge that helped humanity understand their place in the cosmic order. They learned that every few million years, a new species emerged to shake up galactic civilization. Humanity was just the latest in a long line of such species. What happened to the others? Lisa asked. Some grew wise and became teachers. Others grew proud and destroyed themselves. A few, like you, learned to build bridges between different kinds of life. As the first anniversary of the war approached, the galaxy was a very different place. The old Council of 12 Species had become an alliance of over 30 civiles. General Paul Carter was eating breakfast when the emergency call came through. His secure phone rang with the special tone that meant only one thing. Something very bad was happening. He answered on the first ring. "Sir, this is Captain Morrison." "Of the USS Liberty," came the voice through static. "We have a situation. 30 unknown vessels have entered Earth's atmosphere. They claim to represent something called the Galactic Council. They say they're taking over our planet." Paul dropped his coffee cup. In his 40 years of military service, he had planned for many scenarios. Alien invasion was on the list, but he never thought it would actually happen. "Are you certain these are extraterrestrial vessels, Captain?" Paul asked, grabbing his uniform jacket. "Yes, sir. I'm looking at them right now. They're bigger than anything we've ever built." "And, sir?" "They're already landing forces on the surface." Paul was already running to his car. "Keep them busy, Captain. I'm contacting the President immediately." President Lisa Adams was in a meeting with her economic advisors when Paul's call came through. Her Chief of Staff, David Kim, handed her the secure phone with a worried expression. "Madam President, we have confirmed contact with alien forces," Paul said without wasting time on pleasantries. "They've invaded our airspace and are establishing positions on Earth's surface." Lisa felt the world spinning around her. She had been briefed on the possibility of alien contact during her first week in office. But the briefing had focused on peaceful scenarios, not invasion. "How many ships, General?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. 30 large vessels, Mom. Our initial assessment suggests they have technology far beyond our current capabilities." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with new determination. "Activate Protocol 7. Get me Dr. Brooks and Ambassador Martinez immediately. And Paul, make sure our defense systems are ready." Dr. Helen Brooks was in her laboratory, studying soil samples from Mars when the call came. As Earth's leading expert on the possibility of extraterrestrial life, she had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. But she never imagined it would happen like this. 20 minutes later, she was in the secure briefing room beneath the White House, staring at video feeds from around the world. The alien ships hung in the sky like dark clouds. "They're strange." Angular designs were unlike anything in human engineering. "What can you tell us about them, Doctor?" President Adams asked. Helen studied the images carefully. "Their ships show incredible engineering skills. The materials alone are beyond our understanding. but more importantly, their communication. Methods suggest they use quantum entanglement for instant messaging across vast distances. She pointed to energy readings on one of the screens. This level of technology means they've been spacefaring for thousands of years, possibly longer. They're not explorers, Madam President. They're conquerors. Ambassador Carlos Martinez had spent his life solving diplomatic problems. As the head of the United Nations Diplomatic Corps, he had negotiated treaties between hostile nations. But he had never tried to negotiate with aliens who considered humans to be primitive animals. His first attempt at communication came through radio signals broadcast to the alien fleet. The response was immediate and chilling. "Primitive beings," came the translated voice of Admiral Kethfer. "Your attempts at diplomacy are unnecessary. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to claim what the Galactic Council has designated as ours." Carlos tried to stay calm. "We are the legitimate inhabitants of this world. Surely we can reach some kind of agreement that benefits both our species." The alien's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "You misunderstand your situation. You are not negotiating partners. You are simply obstacles to be removed or relocated as we see fit." Meanwhile, in the Australian outback, the alien mining operation was expanding rapidly. Tom Evans woke up in a strange metal cage, his head pounding from whatever weapon had knocked him unconscious. Around him, he could see other humans from nearby settlements, all looking confused and terrified. The aliens paid little attention to their prisoners. The reptilian soldiers were busy setting up massive excavation equipment, while the insect-like workers began digging deep into the earth. Tom watched in horror as they pulled rare metals and minerals from the ground at an incredible rate. One of the reptilian guards noticed Tom was awake. It approached the cage and spoke in its own language. A small device on its belt translated the words into English. "Specimen is conscious," the alien said to its companion. "Should we sedate it again?" "No need," replied the other. "The primitives are harmless. Let it watch. Soon it will understand that resistance is futile." But Tom Evans was far from harmless. He had served in the military before becoming a rancher. More importantly, he had something the aliens didn't expect: a hidden emergency beacon that connected to Australia's defense network. While the aliens worked, Tom carefully activated the beacon. Within minutes, his signal was being received by military installations across the continent. Major Kelly Wright was commander of Australia's Northern Defence Base when Tom's signal came through. The message was brief but terrifying. Aliens landed. Mining operation. Humans captured. Send help. Kelly had been skeptical when the first reports of alien ships came in. But Tom's beacon was transmitting from the exact coordinates where satellite images showed unknown structures had appeared overnight. "Scramble the jets," she ordered. "I want a full reconnaissance flight over that area in 10 minutes. The Australian fighter jets that approached the mining site were among the most advanced aircraft on Earth, but they looked like toys compared to the alien technology. When the pilots saw the massive excavation operation and the strange beings working there, they realized humanity was facing something beyond their understanding. Lieutenant Dan Miller was the squadron leader. He opened his radio channel to base. "Control, you're not going to believe this. I'm looking at technology that shouldn't exist. These things are pulling minerals out of the ground faster than our best mining equipment. Can you see any humans?" Kelly asked. "Affirmative. I count at least 20 people in some kind of detention area. They appear to be unharmed but confined." Dan was about to continue his report when something incredible happened. The aliens noticed the jets and responded with their own aircraft. But these weren't planes as humans understood them. They were sleek, silent craft that moved without any visible means of propulsion. "Control, we have alien fighters approaching," Dan reported, his voice tight with tension. They're moving faster than anything I've ever seen. The alien craft surrounded the human jets effortlessly, but instead of attacking, they simply escorted the humans away from the mining site. It was a clear message: stay away or face the consequences. Back at the United Nations, emergency sessions were taking place around the clock. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to discuss the crisis. For the first time in human history, all of humanity faced the same threat. President Adams addressed the assembly via secure video link. Fellow leaders, we are facing an unprecedented challenge. These aliens have technology far beyond our own, but we cannot simply surrender our world without a fight. Prime Minister Amy Johnson of the United Kingdom spoke first. What are our military options? Can our combined forces mount an effective defense? General Carter, who was monitoring the session, provided a sobering assessment. Our conventional weapons appear to be ineffective against their shielding technology. Nuclear weapons might damage their ships, but using them would also devastate our own planet. Chancellor Franz Weber of Germany leaned forward in his chair. Then, what do you suggest? That we negotiate our own enslavement? No, President Adams replied firmly. We prepare to fight. But we fight smart. Dr. Brooks, what have you learned about their weaknesses? Helen Brooks stood up, holding a datapad full of analysis. They're overconfident. They see us as primitive, which means they're not taking proper precautions. They're also spreading their forces thin across the planet. She brought up a holographic display showing the alien positions. They have 30 ships total, but they're trying to establish mining operations on 6 continents simultaneously. If we could coordinate our response, we might be able to overwhelm them at specific locations. Ambassador Martinez raised his hand. What about their communication with the Galactic Council? If we defeat this fleet, won't they just send more ships? That's exactly why we need to capture some of their technology, Dr. Brooks replied. We need to understand their capabilities and their intentions. Unknown to the world leaders, humanity had more resources than they realized. In hidden facilities across the globe, a secret project called Horizon had been developing advanced defensive technologies for decades. Dr. Marcus Stone, the project's director, was already implementing emergency protocols, but the aliens were also making preparations. Admiral Kethvar had grown tired of human resistance. He decided it was time to make an example that would end all opposition. Prepare the demonstration, he ordered his officers. Choose one of their major cities, something that will show them the futility of resistance. Commander Vexthu's compound eyes gleamed with anticipation. Which city, Admiral? Kethvar studied a map of Earth on his main screen. His claw pointed to a location that made his. The emergency meeting in the White House, Situation Room, brought together the most powerful people on Earth. President Lisa Adams sat at the head of the table, surrounded by world leaders appearing on secure video screens. The weight of humanity's survival rested on the decisions they would make in the next few hours. The aliens are positioning their ships over Sydney, General Carter reported, his voice grim. Satellite imagery shows they're charging some kind of weapon system. Prime. Minister Amy Johnson's face appeared pale on the screen from London. How long do we have? Our analysts estimate 30 minutes before they're ready to fire, Carter replied. President Adams looked around the room at her advisors. Options? We could evacuate the city, suggested Dr. Brooks. But with over 5 million people, it's impossible to get everyone out in time. We could surrender, Ambassador Martinez said quietly. Accept their terms and hope they show mercy. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that surrender meant the end of human civilization, as they knew it. Finally, Chancellor Weber spoke from his secure location in Berlin. There is another option. Tell them about Project Horizon. General Carter straightened in his chair. Sir, that program is classified at the highest levels. Not anymore, President Adams said firmly. Dr. Stone, I know you're listening. It's time. A new voice filled the room through the secure communication system. Dr. Marcus Stone had been waiting for this moment for 25 years. Project Horizon has been preparing for this scenario since 2000, he said. We have defensive systems in place that the aliens don't know about. On his screen, Stone showed images of installations hidden around the world. Underground facilities, camouflaged satellites, and weapon systems that looked far more advanced than anything publicly known. How is this possible? Prime Minister Johnson asked. We've been reverse engineering crashed alien technology for decades, Stone explained. Small scout ships, probe fragments, even some biological samples. We knew this day would come eventually. The revelation stunned everyone in the room. Humanity had been preparing for an alien invasion long before most people even believed in extraterrestrial life. What can these systems do? President Adams asked. We can fight back, Stone replied simply. Colonel Hayes is already moving her teams into position. Colonel Sandra Hayes had spent 15 years training for a war that most people thought would never happen. Her Special Forces unit was equipped with weapons and armor based on alien technology. They moved like shadows through the Australian wilderness, approaching the alien mining site where Tom Evans and the other prisoners were being held. Sandra spoke into her radio headset as her team took positions around the alien installation. All units, this is Falcon Leader. Target is confirmed. I count 60 alien personnel and 20 human prisoners. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rick Barnes, checked his plasma rifle one more time. The weapon looked almost alien itself, with sleek lines and energy cells that glowed with blue light. Remember, Sandra told her team, we need prisoners. Command wants to interrogate them. The attack began at dawn. Sandra's team struck from 6 different directions simultaneously, using stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. Their plasma weapons cut through alien armor like paper. While their energy shields deflected return fire, the aliens had never faced human military tactics before. They were used to enemies who fought with honor, standing in formation, and announcing their attacks. Sandra's team fought like ghosts, appearing from nowhere and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Within minutes, half the alien force was down. The remaining aliens tried to retreat to their ships, but Sandra had planned for that too. Hidden defense turrets rose from the ground around the mining site, their energy beams preventing any escape. Tom Evans couldn't believe what he was seeing. Humans in advanced armor were fighting aliens with weapons that seemed to come from science fiction movies. One of the soldiers approached his cage and used some kind of energy tool to cut through the metal bars. Are you Tom Evans? The soldier asked, removing her helmet to reveal a woman's face. Yes, ma'am, Tom replied, still in shock. I'm Colonel Hayes. We're here to get you home. But as Sandra's team was securing the mining site, Admiral Kethvar was preparing to demonstrate the price of human resistance. His flagship hung over Sydney like a dark cloud, its main weapon charging with energy that made the air itself crackle with electricity. Fire, Kethvar ordered. The energy beam that shot down from the alien ship could have destroyed the entire city. But something impossible happened. Instead of striking Sydney, the beam hit an invisible barrier in the sky and scattered harmlessly into space. On the alien bridge, officers stared at their instruments in disbelief. What happened? Kethvar demanded. The energy was deflected. Admiral, reported his weapons officer. There appears to be some kind of shield protecting the city. Impossible. These primitives don't have that technology. But they did. High above Earth's atmosphere, satellites that had been disguised as space debris for decades were now revealing their true purpose. Dr. Stones. Project Horizon had built a planetary defense grid that could protect entire cities. From orbital bombardment, Dr. Stone watched the readings from his hidden command center. Shield generators are holding steady. The alien beam was completely neutralized. President Adams felt hope for the first time since the crisis began. Can we protect other cities? Every major population center on Earth is covered, Stone confirmed. The aliens can't attack our civilians without going through our defenses. First, the successful defense of Sydney sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council's forces had been stopped by their intended victims. Commander Vex Thules' antennae twitched nervously as he studied the data. Admiral, their defensive technology is more advanced than our intelligence suggested. How did they develop such systems without our knowledge? Admiral Kethvar's reptilian features twisted in anger. It doesn't matter. We'll overwhelm their defenses with concentrated firepower. But before he could give new orders, alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Human fighters were approaching from multiple directions, moving faster than anything the aliens had seen. Before Captain Jake Morrison led the attack in a new ship that Dr. Stone's team had prepared for this moment. The vessel looked human in design, but its technology was years ahead of anything publicly known. Its engines could match alien speed, and its weapons could penetrate alien shields. All units, this is Morrison, he broadcast to the human squadron. Hit them hard and fast. Show them what happens when they threaten our world. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. Human pilots, flying ships with hybrid human-alien technology, engaged the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. The aliens had superior numbers, but humans had something they didn't expect: determination fueled by the need to protect their home. Lieutenant Nina Torres piloted her fighter through a storm of alien energy fire, her ship's shields flaring with each hit. She locked onto an alien cruiser and fired her plasma torpedoes, watching with satisfaction as they punched through the enemy's defenses. Target destroyed, she reported, moving to assist Captain Morrison. Jake was engaged in a deadly dance with 3 alien fighters. His ship twisted and turned through space, using maneuvers that the aliens couldn't predict. When one of the enemy ships got too close, he activated a new weapon that Dr. Stone's team had developed, an electromagnetic pulse that shut down alien systems. The disabled alien ship drifted helplessly as Jake moved on to his next target. Back on Earth, Colonel Hayes was interrogating the alien prisoners from the mining site. She had learned enough of their language to ask basic questions, and what she discovered was both frightening and encouraging. The captured alien engineer, a luminary named Quilder, was more cooperative than expected. Unlike his reptilian and insectoid colleagues, the energy being seemed almost relieved to be captured. "Your species is not in our database," Quilder admitted, its electric voice filled with confusion. "According to our records, this system contained only primitive life forms." "Well, you were wrong," Agent Rick Barnes said from across the interrogation room. "More than wrong," Quilder replied. "Impossible. The Galactic Council has been monitoring this sector for millennia. Your technological advancement rate is unprecedented." This revelation excited Dr. Brooks, who was observing the interrogation. If humanity's development had been faster than normal, it might explain why they had been able to compete with galactic-level technology. "Tell us about the Galactic Council," Rick demanded. Quilder's energy field flickered with what might have been fear. "They are the rulers of this galaxy. For 3,000 years, they have expanded their territory by conquering weaker species. Those who resist are destroyed. Those who submit become slaves." "How many worlds have they conquered?" Dr. Brooks asked. "Thousands. No species has ever successfully resisted them." "Until now," Rick said with a grim smile. The information from Quilder was immediately transmitted to world leaders. The scope of the Galactic Council's empire was staggering, but so was the opportunity. If humanity could defeat them, they could potentially liberate thousands of enslaved species. President Adams made a decision that would change the course. The emergency alarm that rang through the Galactic Council's main headquarters had not sounded in over 1,000 years. Fleet Admiral Zarthik, Supreme Commander of the Council's military forces, was pulled from his meditation chamber by the urgent summons. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded as he entered the command center. His massive frame, larger even than Admiral Kethvar, dominated the room. The other council members stepped back in fear. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "a nervous insectoid named Vaxter. We've lost contact with the expedition to Sol 3. The last transmission was a distress call." Zarthik's eyes blazed with fury. "Lost contact? That's impossible. Kethvar commanded 30 of our finest ships against primitive mammals." High Counselor Mordok, the eldest member of the ruling body, stepped forward. His ancient reptilian features showed concern that bordered on panic. "Admiral, perhaps the primitives had help. Other species have rebelled before." "No other species has the technology to defeat our fleets," Zarthik replied coldly. "There must be another explanation." But even as he spoke, more reports were coming. Long-range sensors showed debris where the Sol 3 expedition should have been. The impossible had happened. An entire Galactic Council fleet had been destroyed. "Prepare the Armada," Zarthik ordered. "I will personally deal with whatever destroyed our ships." Back in the Sol system, humanity was discovering the true extent of their victory. The alien fleet had been completely destroyed, with only a handful of survivors taken prisoner. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the wreckage floating in space. "All ships report in," he called over the communication system. One by one, the human vessels confirmed their status. They had lost several ships and brave crews, but the victory was complete. Earth was safe, at least for now. But Dr. Stone knew this was only the beginning. In his hidden command center, he was already analyzing the captured alien technology. What he found made him both excited and terrified. "General Carter," he called through the secure line, "you need to see this immediately." When Carter arrived at the facility, Stone showed him data that would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The aliens' computer systems contained their complete star charts, Stone explained, pointing to a holographic display. "Paul, there are over 10,000 inhabited worlds under Council control." Carter stared at the massive scope of the alien empire. "How many ships do they have?" "Conservative estimate? Over 50,000 vessels. What we fought was just a scouting force." The weight of this revelation settled on both men. Humanity had won a battle, but the war was far from over. How long before they send reinforcements? Carter asked. Based on their communication logs, a full armada is already being prepared. We have maybe weeks before they arrive. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Commander Kate Walsh was overseeing the most ambitious project in human history. The secret facility on the moon's far side had been building defense platforms for decades. Now it was time to reveal them. "Activate all orbital stations," she ordered her team. Around the solar system, objects that had been disguised as asteroids and space debris suddenly came to life. Massive weapon platforms unfolded from their hiding places, their energy cores beginning to charge. Hidden bases on Mars, Europa, and Titan activated their defense systems. Kate watched the displays with satisfaction. If they want our system, they'll have to fight for every planet. But the real surprise was yet to come. Dr. Stone's team had been working on something special, a project so secret that only a handful of people knew about it. In a facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the fruits of 50 years of alien technology research were finally revealed. The prototype ship that emerged from the underground hangar looked nothing like human engineering. It was sleek, powerful, and built with technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council possessed. Lieutenant Nina Torres was chosen to pilot the experimental craft. As she climbed into the cockpit, she could feel the power of the ship's hybrid systems. Human creativity combined with alien technology had created something entirely new. "This is incredible," she reported to Dr. Stone. "The response time is instantaneous. The weapon systems are showing power levels I've never seen before." "That's just the beginning," Stone replied. "This ship can do things that will surprise even us." The breakthrough came when Nina activated the ship's most experimental system, a faster-than-light communication array that could send messages across the galaxy instantly. For the first time, humanity could speak directly to other worlds. First message they intercepted changed everything. It came from a planet called Arcturia, located in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy. The transmission was weak and heavily encrypted, but Dr. Brooks was able to translate it. "This is incredible," she announced to the Emergency Council. "We are receiving communications from other species who are fighting the Galactic Council." The message was from a being who called himself Ambassador Veltar of the Arcturian Resistance. His people had been fighting Council oppression for centuries, conducting guerrilla warfare against their occupiers. "People of Earth," Veltar's message began, "we have observed your victory against the Council fleet. We did not think it was possible. If you are receiving this, please respond. There are others who wish to be free." President Adams personally authorized the response. "Ambassador Veltar, this is President Lisa Adams of Earth. We hear you, and we are ready to help." What followed was the most important diplomatic communication in human history. Veltar revealed that dozens of species across the galaxy had been secretly organizing resistance movements. They had been waiting for someone with the strength to challenge the Council openly. "Your victory has given hope to billions of enslaved beings," Veltar explained during their first real-time conversation. "But you must understand the magnitude of what you face. The Council will not tolerate this rebellion." Dr. Brooks was fascinated by the Arcturian. His species had evolved along similar lines to humans, but with some crucial differences. They were natural telepaths, which had allowed them to coordinate their resistance without the Council detecting their communications. "How many species are part of your resistance?" President Adams asked. 47 confirmed members, with more joining every day. "Your broadcast of the battle has spread throughout the galaxy. Enslaved peoples everywhere are beginning to believe that freedom is possible." But even as humanity celebrated these new alliances, Admiral Zarthik was preparing his response. The largest fleet in Galactic Council history was assembling at the edge of Council space. Over 200 massive warships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. "These humans will learn the price of defying the Council," Zarthik declared to his assembled captains. "We will not just conquer their world. We will make an example of them that will be remembered for millennia." Unknown to the aliens, their communications were being monitored by Nina Torres in her experimental ship. The new technology allowed her to intercept their messages from light years away. "Command, this is Torres," she reported grimly. "The alien reinforcements are massive. I count over 200 ships, including some that are larger than anything we've seen before." General Carter felt his heart sink. Even with their new technology and alien allies, humanity couldn't face a fleet that size. But Dr. Stone had one more surprise. "There's something else we discovered in the alien computers," he announced to the Emergency Council. "The location of other Council fleets throughout the galaxy." He brought up a tactical display showing Council positions across dozens of star systems. "If we could coordinate simultaneous attacks with the resistance movements, we could hit them everywhere at once." You're talking about galactic warfare, President Adams said quietly. I'm talking about galactic liberation, Stone replied. The resistance movements have been waiting for this opportunity for centuries. They have the motivation and the knowledge of Council weaknesses. We have the technology and the tactical skills. Ambassador Veltar, listening to the conversation through their quantum communication link, spoke up. President Adams, my people are prepared to fight. We have ships hidden throughout our system, waiting for the signal to attack. Similar messages began coming in from resistance movements across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for millennia were ready to rise up, if only someone would lead them. The decision that President Adams had to make would affect not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Humanity could try to defend their home system and hope for the best. Or they could take the fight to the enemy and attempt to liberate thousands of worlds. How long before the alien armada reaches Earth? She asked. 3 weeks, Nina Torres reported from her position monitoring the fleet. And how long to coordinate a galaxy-wide uprising? Ambassador Veltar considered the question. With quantum communication, we could have resistance forces ready to attack within days. But President Adams, if we fail, the consequences will be terrible. The Council will show no mercy to any species that rebels. Adams looked around the room at her advisors, then at the faces of world leaders on the screens. The weight of the decision was enormous, but the choice was clear. Then we better not fail, she said firmly. Dr. Stone, begin coordinating with the resistance movements. General Carter, prepare. The day that would forever be known as Liberation Day began quietly across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, enslaved beings went about their daily routines while secretly preparing for the moment that would change everything. The quantum communication network that Dr. Stone's team had established was carrying encrypted messages to resistance movements in every corner of Council space. Presidents. Lisa Adams stood in the war room beneath the White House, surrounded by screens showing star maps from across the galaxy. Each blinking light represented a world where people were about to risk everything for freedom. All resistance cells report ready, announced Ambassador Veltar through the quantum link. His Arcturian forces had been planning this moment for over 2 centuries. General Carter checked his watch. The alien armada will reach our outer defense perimeter in 6 hours. If we're going to do this, it has to be now. Adams took a deep breath. The signal she was about to give would either liberate the galaxy or doom it to even worse oppression. But she thought about Tom Evans, about Captain Morrison, about all the humans who had already sacrificed so much. They hadn't fought just to save Earth. They had fought for the idea that no one should be enslaved. Send the signal, she ordered. Across the galaxy, the largest coordinated military operation in history began simultaneously. On Arcturia, Veltar's hidden fleet emerged from underground caverns and attacked the Council garrison orbiting their world. On Zephyr Prime, the reptilian homeworld enslaved workers in the factories suddenly turned on their overseers. On Hive Central, the insectoid capital, dormant resistance cells activated explosive devices in key infrastructure points. But the most important battle was happening in Earth's solar system, where Admiral Zarthik's massive armada was about to face the full power of humanity's defenses. Commander Kate Walsh watched from Luna Base as the alien ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. There were so many vessels that they blocked out the stars. All defense platforms, this is Luna Command, she broadcast. Execute Order 7. Around the solar system, the hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as asteroids revealed themselves. Massive energy cannons emerged from fake rocks. Missile launchers unfolded from what had appeared to be space debris. The aliens found themselves surrounded by a defensive network they had never detected. Admiral, Zarthik stared at his tactical displays in shock. How is this possible? Our sensors showed nothing but natural objects. Admiral, reported his intelligence. Officer, we're detecting over 300 defensive installations. Their energy signatures suggest technology equal to our own. Impossible. These humans are primitives. But even as he spoke, the first wave of human attacks began. Energy beams that could crack planets struck his lead ships. Kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through console shields like they were made of paper. Captain Morrison, now commanding the largest human fleet ever assembled, led the attack from his flagship Defiance. The ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, combined with captured alien technology. Its weapons could destroy Council dreadnoughts with single shots. All ships, this is Morrison, he broadcast to the human fleet. Remember what we're fighting for. Not just Earth, but every enslaved world in the galaxy. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable than the alien vessels, swarmed around. The massive Council fleet like angry hornets. Their pilots had learned from the previous battle, developing tactics that the aliens couldn't counter. Lieutenant Torres, flying her experimental ship, was a force of destruction all by herself. Her vessel's hybrid technology allowed her to phase in and out of normal space, appearing behind enemy ships and devastating them before they could respond. Torres to all units, she called over the communication system. I'm reading massive energy buildup in the alien flagship. They're preparing some kind of super weapon. Admiral Zarthik had indeed activated his ship's planet-killer weapon. If he couldn't win this battle, he would at least destroy the world that had started this rebellion. Target Earth, he ordered. Charge the core disruptor to full power. But humanity had one more surprise waiting. Dr. Stone's most secret project was about to be revealed. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the experimental facility that had built Nina's ship contained something even more advanced. A massive device that Dr. Brooks had designed based on principles learned from captured alien technology. Activate the quantum disruptor, President Adams ordered. The device that emerged from the underground facility looked like something from humanity's wildest science fiction dreams. It rose from the earth on a pillar of energy, its crystalline structure focusing power that made the air itself glow. When Dr. Brooks activated the device, something incredible happened. The quantum field that held Admiral Zarthik's fleet together began to destabilize. Ships that had been working perfectly suddenly found their systems failing. Weapons powered down. Engines sputtered to a halt. What's happening? Zarthik demanded, as his flagship began to drift powerlessly. All systems are failing, Admiral, reported his engineering officer. It's as if our quantum matrix is being disrupted by some external force. The human fleet pressed their advantage. Ships that had been battling overwhelming odds suddenly found themselves facing helpless targets. Within hours, the largest invasion force in Council history had been reduced to floating wreckage. But the real victory was happening across the galaxy. On world after world, the resistance movements were succeeding beyond their wildest dreams. The Council forces, spread thin across thousands of systems, couldn't respond to simultaneous uprisings everywhere. Ambassador Veltar's voice crackled with emotion as he reported from Arcturia. President Adams, our world is free. The Council garrison has surrendered. We are seeing similar reports from dozens of other systems. Dr. Brooks was monitoring communications from across the galaxy, translating desperate Council transmissions. They're in complete chaos, she reported. Local commanders are surrendering rather than face destruction. Some are even switching sides. The turning point came when the Zephyrian homeworld fell to its own enslaved population. The reptilian Council members, who had started this empire, found themselves prisoners of the very beings they had oppressed. Commander Vex Thul, captured during the battle for Earth, was brought before President Adams for interrogation. The insectoid leader's compound eyes showed an emotion humans had never seen from the council species: fear. "Your resistance has spread too far," he admitted. "The council cannot contain it. We underestimated your species' ability to inspire others." "It's not just about inspiration," Adams replied. "It's about freedom, something your council never understood." Within weeks, the galactic revolution was complete. Council forces across the galaxy had either surrendered or been destroyed. Thousands of worlds that had been enslaved for millennia were suddenly free to govern themselves. But freedom brought new challenges. Many species had forgotten how to rule themselves after centuries of oppression. Others had technology so advanced that they could easily dominate their neighbors. The galaxy needed new leadership, a new system of governance that would prevent another empire like the Council from rising. President Adams found herself at the center of efforts to create this new order. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered on Luna Base, which had been expanded into a massive space station capable of housing the new galactic government. Ambassador Veltar was elected as the first president of what became known as the Galactic Assembly. But everyone understood that this new government existed because of humanity's courage and sacrifice. "We owe our freedom to Earth," Veltar said in his inaugural address. "They showed us that no empire, no matter how powerful, can defeat the desire for liberty." The Assembly's first act was to establish the Terran Accords, a galactic constitution based on human concepts of democracy and individual rights. Every world would govern itself, but all would cooperate for mutual defense and prosperity. Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the new Galactic Defense Force. His flagship, Defiance, became the symbol of the new order, a reminder that freedom must always be defended. Dr. Stone was appointed head of the technology sharing initiative, working to ensure that advanced knowledge was spread fairly among all species. No longer would technological superiority be used as a tool of oppression. The former council leaders faced a new kind of justice. Instead of execution or enslavement, they were required to serve the worlds they had once oppressed. Admiral Kethver found himself working in the same Australian mines where he had once planned to use human slave labor. Tom Evans, the rancher who had been captured during the first alien landing, was present at the ceremony when the Galactic Assembly officially recognized Earth as the capital of the new galactic civilization. He stood next to President Adams as she addressed representatives from thousands of worlds. "We didn't seek this responsibility," Adams said to the assembled delegates, "but we accept it with the same determination that helped us win our freedom. This galaxy will be governed by cooperation, not conquest. By freedom, not fear." As she spoke, the camera pulled back to show the incredible scene. The Luna base station now stretched,